we have a superstar guest today. His name is Kabelo Ledwaba Junior. He is a African Motocross Champion, young superstar.
And Phathu.
All right, so to kickstart us off today, we're going to be talking about AR learning. AR learning is augmented reality learning. So just to tell you a little bit about it, in terms of if you were to picture it for yourself, some people think AR learning has to do with games and it's video games and it's nothing serious, right? But augmented reality learning would be if you get to the dinosaur section of your natural sciences when you're about in grade maybe 4 or 5. And you guys are learning about dinosaurs. So augmented reality allows you to be able to physically, virtually be able to see what a dinosaur would look like. Or if you were able to use your phone or your tablet and you pointed it at a picture of a volcano, it could make it such that the volcano would actually erupt in video format so that you could be able to see what is essentially happening. So I find that pretty cool. A lot of people have a few misconceptions that it's not something that can be incorporated into the education system. How do you guys feel about that?
It could be. Mm-hmm. Obviously, currently where we are, there's a lot of issues in our country, in our education system, mainly with funding. Yeah. So it's going to be tough to bring it in with the funding chat. But I think it's such a great idea. You can learn so much. Basically like simulations. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Imagine now as a medical student, you're in a simulation performing a procedure. Now you don't have to actually go practice on a real person just yet, but you practice in that virtual augmented reality world before you get on to do it to a person.
I'm sorry, I like it. I just like it in fields such as maybe your EGDs, where you're trying to draw something that's 3D. Because the nice thing about AR is a flat surface, right? Like any textbook whatsoever. Like Bule said, you point something at it, and through that medium, it then becomes 3D. So you can move the dinosaur. Maybe they can add things there. We are familiar with a partner company of ours, Ambani. They use the same thing for their textbook. So you can learn African languages there, and they use AR in their textbooks, where you can buy a physical book and then put your phone on it, and then it annotates certain phrases for you. So that's very nice. Yeah.
That's really cool.
Yeah, definitely cool. So just to give you guys a little bit more information on how AR works and what it is. So when you use AR app, essentially what happens is your device camera scans your environment, as I mentioned, and then you'll be able to see the digital elements or animated elements of whatever it is you're trying to learn. Why is it awesome? Instead of just memorizing facts, you can explore concepts in a way that it's like you can go on an adventure whilst you're studying. Nice thing about it is it's very engaging for learners. So now when you're in a classroom environment, parent might think, okay, now my kid is going to be on his phone in class. But the issue is students are no longer listening when it comes to the traditional form of learning. We're all already on our phones outside of school. So the one thing that I would assume kids are looking forward to is to get right back onto their phones.
Yeah, that's true.
So if we're now incorporating technology into the learning environment, I think it's a huge bonus because now they're not scared or itching to be on their devices. We're using their devices to get them to focus on information that's actually going to better them. Then they can quickly discover what it is they find interesting and what it is that they're good at. The question I have for you guys is, what subject do you feel would benefit most from augmented reality learning?
Can I
would be the most fun?
In phases, okay?
Yeah.
Grade 1, 2, 3, probably mathematics.
Okay.
Because just off the top of my head, yes, it's 1 plus 1, right? But if you can use AR to say that, okay, there's one apple, and then there's another apple, and then together there's two, it helps just the kid conceptualize, because at that age, it's all in their head.
Yeah.
Trying to make them understand what subtraction means verbally is actually quite harder than
Physically seeing it. I agree with you, because I was teaching a student recently, and then now they were having to add like 45 to a number like 30, right?
Yeah.
And then they were slow in getting it. Funny enough, then I was like, no, man, this kid is quite well off. If you have 45 rand and then I give you 30 rand, how much do you have?
Yeah.
exactly.
He then immediately got it right. But when I just told him what's 35 plus 40, he couldn't get the answer. But now, because he could connect it to money, something he uses every day, buys food at school, it was easier. So definitely hear you on the numbers chat. If they could see it, digital money, whatever the case may be, it would be easier to add and subtract things that way.
Yeah, just to explain what adding actually is.
Yeah.
I think natural sciences, as we get older, but still in the primary phases, things like labeling, I found that most kids struggle with like a top-down. If you look at a cell, and then you say, okay, nucleus, whatever, cell is actually more round. So if you could have AR show it in 3D format, and then the arrows coming from the inside out to say the nucleus is actually not from the top looking down like an egg.
It's in the middle.
It's actually in the middle, stuff like that. And then obviously, like I said before, at high school level, your EGDs of the world to help you see what you've designed in 3D format would actually be lovely.
Yeah,
100%.
I actually agree with you in everything. So for the kids, the math, but I'd also say languages as well, so that kids can see what these words mean. And then going higher up, natural sciences, biology.
Definitely. And then the final question that I have is, how do you think AR could change the way we learn in future?
I think we're going to be able to grasp things a lot quicker, because now we're going to see them actually happening. Like we've been saying, it's so difficult to say just 1 plus 1, because cool, but now when I actually see it happening and I actually see what the cell is, I see the cell as a whole, because I can't just
it practicalizes most lessons. That's what
Exactly.
you're saying, because usually sticking in the science, there's like when we used to hate it a lot, it's like, okay, you're first gonna learn the experiment on paper,
before
the
you
aim,
actually
whatever,
do it.
and then she's gonna come and fetch the Bunsen burners and then the groups and all of that. You can fast track that whole process. AR.
Let's do it quick.
This is what happens in whatever chemical process, and you're done.
Yeah.
Brilliant. Yeah, so on my side, I just really think AR is going to be a very good thing, because a lot of us are visual learners, whether we like it or not. And even if you're not a visual learner, visualization is very impactful when it comes to learning, being able to see what it is you're learning. And then for retention as well, it's easier to memorize certain things when you've actually seen them, and also the way in which you're going to see them. Because like we said, kids are always on their devices watching your TikToks, your Instagrams of the world, the podcast, watch it. So essentially now, when you are able to see the volcano, or see the dinosaur in its part, or see the cells or the parts of the body, and be able to label them virtually, that allows you to retain that information a lot better, because it's now done in a fun way. It's technologically advanced. It's never been done before. So I think it will be very cool, and the kids will definitely enjoy it. We hope it's integrated into our curriculum quite soon. We can't make any promise.
Anyway, well, at the more posh schools, kids have tablets. So why not have the textbook on the board, and then
you can just
pick
it up
everybody, and then boom. So it practicalizes the subject matter. That's what I like the most.
Exactly. Yeah, definitely. The future holds such nice things. I wish I could go back to school just to experience it.
Learning this way.
Learning this way sounds fun. All right, moving swiftly along to the career guidance topic is?
Today we have a really great superstar. He is a Motocross African champion, and we are about to interview him, as well as his manager / father.
Yeah, so really cool guys, Kabelo Ledwaba Junior and Senior. Stay tuned.
Kabelo Ledwaba Junior is the youngest black motocross rider in South Africa.
Motocross racing star Kabelo Ledwaba Jr. is hard at work.
They saw him make his mark on the global stage as a future champion of the sport of motocross.
Well, his rise to stardom includes finishing in the top 3 nationals in his first year of riding.
I told him, so you need to be a beacon of light and show the other kids in South Africa.
Welcome to our career guidance segment for today, folks. So we're going to be talking about a superstar. We have a superstar guest today. His name is Kabelo Ledwaba Junior, and he is a African motocross champion, young superstar.
Yeah.
So we're going to be talking to him a little bit, getting to know him, what his journey has been like, who he is. I'm very excited to get to know KB a little bit better. We do tutor KB. His dad was so kind because he's so busy being an African champion. He gets extra academic assistance from us, and that's how we know the legend that is Kabelo Ledwaba.
Thank you.
All right. So, Kabelo, you come from the African Championships recently in Morocco. How was that?
Yeah, it was really good. Very fun. A long trip and a long journey coming to it. I worked really hard for it, and I think I really deserved it. And yeah, Marrakesh was really good, and I thank everybody that helped me to get there.
All right. And how did you get into motocross?
So it's all started in 2019, but actually my dad started riding quad bikes, and then I started developing that love for motorbikes, and then that's when I started riding in 2019, end of 2019,
June. And since then you've been riding up until
now, riding in Europe, representing South Africa in World Championships and now African Championships.
Okay, that's great. Obviously, you're a student. You're in grade 8 now.
Yeah.
How are you balancing being a legend, a motocross legend, and being a full-time scholar?
So I have a really good program and schedule where in the morning I do school from around maybe 7:30 to 12 or 1, and then from then I go riding, and then come back and later on do some studying, just some extra work.
Okay. And as someone who does motocross and school as well, what challenges are you facing, especially being so young as well?
I'm facing a bit of challenges in some subjects, but I think I can get really used to them, and I thank you guys for the tutoring. Just everything. I think the challenges we'll overcome them together.
Okay, and lastly, what advice would you give a kid your age who wants to go into motocross?
Definitely, if you want the dream and if you want it, have fun with it. Anything you do, you must have fun, and that's when you know it's the best thing. And when you're passionate about something, go for it. Never give up.
All right. Thank you, Kabelo.
Some solid words from Kabelo Ledwaba Junior. He's inspirational to us as old as we are, and if you're young and his age, you also have some work to do. Pull up your socks. You can do it all. You can do school, you can do sport, and be a motocross legend.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Hi guys, welcome to the part 2 of our interview with our career guidance segment for this week. So right now we're going to be talking to Kabelo Ledwaba Senior. So that is the man who birthed the motocross legend we just interviewed right now. So we have a couple of questions. We want to speak to him from a parent perspective, and hear what it's like to parent a child of such a great talent. To be an African champion is no small feat. So Rebo has the first question for the day.
All right. So my first question is, as a father, how do you ensure that he's performing well in both his academics as well as the motocross?
It's very complicated. Motocross is a full-time job. I'll call it a job because if you don't, for example, go to gym
you don't study your riding, you don't actually go and train riding, you won't perform well. But if you look at it, it's the same with school. If you don't put in the time, learn, revise, push yourself, especially because he's on online schooling, there's a certain level where we constantly have to motivate him and push him to get him across the line. Like you were saying, he does attend school in the morning to the afternoon, depending on the day. Sometimes he doesn't, and then he does catch-up lessons later. But you know, it's a juggling game, and it's actually quite complicated and a bit difficult, because how do you manage, how do you balance? People say, no, he must have a social life. But I'm saying, okay, motocross is his social life. That's where all his friends are.
Yeah.
School is school. He's learning so that he can be able to understand the world.
Yep.
You know, the world has evolved from it just being about A grades and then going to varsity and then passing and getting a degree, because half of the people that are employers, funny enough, are not the ones that went to that level. So if you study the pattern of where the world is going, if you expose yourself, I was in China recently, funny enough, to do a little bit of research and understanding of where the world is evolving to, because the world is actually evolving to the east, not to the west. So if you go and you see how the parenting styles go, what new moves are they making in terms of growing their kids and securing a future, and just in business as a whole and in life, you know, socioeconomic side of things, to see how they do it. And you start realizing that even they've changed their model. You know, Jack Ma once said, Jack Ma is the owner of Alibaba. He once said, I'd rather have an average student, but a student that also uses the other 50% to know, to learn about the world around him or her. So we push him to have good grades, you know, so that he can understand how to do things, and he can understand how the world works, and he can be able to engage with others. And if he has concepts that he wants to initiate, he's got some sort of level of understanding and background and structure that he can be able to deliver. But we are also not extremely too strict on that. What I mean by this is, it's not everything.
Yeah.
It's not a threat. It's achieve, let's push, motivate. The very same way we push in the biking, we push the same. We're the same formula we're using in the biking, we're using the same formula in school.
Yeah.
It's okay, bro. We're going to go hard on this one. Give me, like now I said to you guys, give me one strong month. He's been racing most of the year. He's Europe, here, Zim, you know, Morocco now, you know, so on and so forth. All these international travels. South Africa is a big place. So, and a lot of training. Now it's time to get ready for exams. We now do exactly what we do in the bikes. Okay, we're final stretch. One strong month, we push hard, we give it everything, we see how we get. It's an agreement so we're getting him used to doing deals, structuring deals, making sure that you develop to achieve the goals that you're achieving, whether it's in work, whether it's in riding, whether it's in school, like that.
Yeah. All right.
Nice. And then my follow-up question based on what you just said now, what would then be your advice when it comes to parents now who are in a similar situation where they have a talented kid in whatever field that there it is, whether it's sports or culture? How do they not listen to the noise when it comes to navigating how you parent the kid with the pressures of having to do the motocross and still focusing on academics, because now he's in an online school? So some parents might say he's too young, you're not focusing on his academics. What advice would you give to a parent like that who's dealing with the...
Out of anyone, you need to also have a certain level of enjoyment and passion involved. So if you're just going to follow what everybody's saying and follow that, think about it. In motocross, for example, at the last national, there were only 3 black riders. There's more than 3 black riders, but there were only 3 black riders on the track. So, and I'm not making this racial, by the way. I'm just trying to say that 77% of this country is black people. I'm just being honest, right? The biggest market is black. The biggest income and the biggest spenders are black people, whether we like it or not, because there's more of us, right? There's a bigger person. So if you have a child, black, Indian, colored, white, give them the full support. Give them the full support, give them targets, make the passion how do I say this? Make the passion a tool for you to get the results in school. You understand?
Yeah.
But give them the support. Allow them to fail. Allow them to fail, stand up and work harder, so that they don't. When it's time for them to fail, we all failed when we were a little bit older. Now you fail when you're a little bit older. You need to pay a house. You need to pay this. You need to pay. Let them fail now. Allow them to fail. Push them. Support them. If there's a trip to wherever, put together a raffle. Do whatever that it takes, and get them. And if you actually look at South Africa as a whole, South Africa is a very fertile land for anything that you want to do. We travel a lot to Europe. It's hard in Europe. You go to America. It's hard in America. People think those guys are living their life. Have you ever seen a European or an American with a maid?
No.
Not all.
Not a lot. Yeah.
Have you
Not
ever
as often
seen?
as we see it.
Yes.
Yeah,
Have you
yeah,
ever
yeah.
seen an American with a team that does the garden and it's not costing them a fortune? You don't see that.
Only the rich.
Only
The
the
very,
rich.
very rich, yeah.
So don't undermine yourself in terms of the resources that you have. You know, we like to cry a lot, but we actually have a lot of resources. The mere fact that you can go to work, your children can go to school, they've got transport to come back from school. You don't even need to fetch them. You go to Europe, you have to fetch them. No one can afford to fetch your kids. You know, you can't. You have to fetch your kids, otherwise they must come back by themselves. So you clean your own house, you wash your own laundry. So this place, like I said, it's very fertile ground. Whatever that you want to do, if you just push and focus, you can actually be quite high in the world in whatever that you want to do, or whatever that you want your kids to do. Because can I just sway away a little bit from?
No problem. No problem. It's a
So
conversation.
we all
It's
live in a state. There's complexes in Johannesburg, everywhere. The other day I was with a gentleman, quite a high profile individual in actual fact, and he was asking me, he says, have you realized what's happening in estates and complexes these days? And I asked him, what do you mean? He says, teenagers have nothing to do.
Yeah, that's true.
You're pumping them, just pushing them only into school. You can only do school for so many hours, and then after that, your mind is just it's done. You can't. You have to do something else. You have to learn something else about. Even you as tutors, you can only push kids to such a level.
Yes. Yeah.
And parents need to understand that they need to find a way to keep them busy in order to get them motivated for school. You know, saying they must also do school, they mustn't do anything else. It's difficult for them to actually even take their school serious. You know, so when they fail in the school because they only focused on it, all the pressure is only on that thing. Then it becomes a crisis. So I was explaining in the complexes. I was speaking to a gentleman and he was telling me about this thing with the kids in the estates, and he says, look, he's had to chase a lot of kids, you know, away from his section because they're smoking or doing something that kids shouldn't be doing, right? And it then got me thinking to say, I've always been saying that you need to keep the kids busy.
Yeah.
No, 110%. Couldn't agree more. I mean, you smoking, drinking, or motocross legend. So there's so many other things,
choices.
so many other hobbies that these kids can develop. Another follow-up question: what would you say has been your proudest moment thus far as a father?
I'd say the African Championship. I'd say the African Championship because but the biggest one was last year when he qualified 5th in the world in the 65cc class.
Wow.
Yeah, he was on fire. 5th in the world. Unfortunately, we had a mechanical after that on the main race. The suspension got locked and he didn't want to move. But I'll take that any day. 5th fastest time in the world.
7 billion people on the planet.
Yes, exactly.
That's incredible.
Now you see when you start saying the numbers. Do you understand? Do you understand?
Yes.
Like now, he's the only one with that 85cc African Championship. He's the only one in the world with that thing.
Yeah.
So to say you can't take it away from him. He went there, we worked hard, and it's actually very challenging, by the way, to do this racing thing.
Yeah.
The race is not only on the track, the race is also off the track. So for the parents, to get sponsors, to put up a team, to put down the structure, all of that, it teaches the kids so much. If your kid is doing tennis, it teaches them so much, or her, it teaches them so much. If they're doing international ballerina, it teaches them so much. If you just focus and say, don't be short-sighted. Look ahead. Say, okay, if they're doing ballet, for example, it's a girl, and you want them to go to the International School of Ballet in, to perform in London, for example. Make that your goal and make that the goal with them and push them there. If it's tennis, let it be there. If it's gaming, gaming is one of the biggest. Gaming is such a big sport right now. Gaming is massive. It's a multi-billion-dollar industry. But a parent will say, now I made it because I became a lawyer. So you cannot be gaming. We'll never all be the same, man.
Wow, lovely. Rebo, you have the final question?
My final question would be, how do you, as a father and a manager, deal with all the pressures? I know he has his own pressures, but you as the father and the manager, how do you deal with that?
To be honest with you, they say, in our tradition, they say, like you understand? Like a child is raised by a community. So honestly speaking, I have a community around me. Whether or not they know how much impact they have, you understand? But when I'm calling on our sponsors, it's very strange. South Africa has this thing of xenophobia, etc., etc. One of his biggest sponsors is a Zimbabwean company. Wow. I promise you, it's if we just open up Africa and we sort of have some sort of interlinking, we show the brotherhood, we can create so much. You understand? So I'll say, when you say how do you deal with the pressures, I'd say, like I'm saying to you, that we set targets, we speak to the community, and we also give the report back to the people that we work with to say, look, this is where we went wrong. We apologize if we went wrong here, or we had this problem. And strangely enough, some we've lost, some we've gained. We still need more. Like next year, if he's last year in 85cc, we believe he can actually do well, or even win the world championships. And the pressure is on even now for me. Because I need to raise that money for him to be traveling to Europe and training, permanently to a certain degree, because the tracks there are laid out different from us. But like I told you, it's very difficult. You're going internationally, here's the biggest pressure now. You're going internationally, you earn rand. Your sponsors give you rand. Whoever donates gives rand. You are going overseas to turn the money into euros. At some stage this year, the euro was 21 rand to a euro. So just a meal will cost you 500 rand. One lunch. And a takeaway. I'm not talking about serious things. So the numbers start, it starts compounding like that. Now, that's another positive of all these international travels. He's been traveling for 3 years now internationally and staying overseas and doing the way he approaches money, the way that we've taught the kids to approach money, because in life in general, you now start seeing the true value of money, because you're the one that's there. You have to buy something. If you have to buy groceries and this loaf of bread is 3 euros, this one is 2 euros, and then you turn at the back, you look at the ingredients, you take the 2 euros. That's the other educational part. That doing sports or doing any sort of extracurricular activity at a high level teaches the kids. We've all had to learn a lot of stuff I used to race. We've all had to learn a lot of stuff when we were out of school or stuff like that. You make those mistakes when you're at that age. So imagine now he's made all those mistakes already. So when he starts earning big money or whatever, he'll have a little bit more knowledge. If he messes it up, that will be his. I'll have done my share. I will be sleeping nicely knowing, okay, he's there, but I did my work. The guy had 2 times yet, he's okay. You know what I'm trying to say?
Definitely.
But personally, I would say to every parent, try your best to get your kids to do something. Hopefully not just soccer, because everybody seems to think it's just soccer out there. And Okay, think about it like this. You go, you do soccer, the kid is competing against a couple of billion players because in the world there's so many players. Right? The guy at 2 times yet he's okay. You know what I'm trying to say?
Definitely.
But personally, I would say to every parent, try your best to get your kids to do something. Hopefully not just soccer, because everybody seems to think it's just soccer out there. And okay, think about it like this. You go, you do soccer, the kid is competing against a couple of billion players because in the world there's so many players, right? Yes, it's cheaper to do, but for you to get to the top, it's a little bit more hard. Get the children to try different things. What I found about Africans and South Africans is that South Africans are Africans as a general, you know, and any culture, Indian, black, colored, what, we're very robust. Yes, we're very robust. And we work a little bit harder than most of the other guys. So, no, I'm just being honest.
Love it. I love honesty.
I'm just being honest.
Yeah.
The only thing they have over us is that if you go to Europe, for example, when they put a kid in racing, or they put her in figure skating, or they put him in, you know, tennis or whatever, or cricket or whatever, the family focuses on that thing. The family, they have the full family support. Regardless of whether he's winning or losing, they try, they push, they come together. It actually makes it it becomes a bonding thing, and it also creates I don't know, man, it's like a family. Even when they go to the races, like a family thing, you know, the moms are cooking, this one's doing that, and it's like that, So that's the one thing that we don't have. But in terms of performance, I think South Africa is up there.
Definitely. That's been Kabelo Ledwaba Senior. I just want to say from my side, on behalf of the team, I mean, we also are proud of you as a father. I mean, not many fathers can say that my son is the African champion. And that's something that you've built. I mean, you spoke about the pressures and you spoke about having a team, which was the humble answer, but you definitely have done a lot as a father, and we hope you do know that. I'm 100% sure you do know that. And the community and the support that's been behind what he's done as well is absolutely, it's a story that we could write a book on, I feel. Very, very beautiful story, and congratulations to you and your son.
No, thanks. It's actually quite cool because we've been with you guys, I think, when you started, when you started, we were there with you guys. Then he's had to leave. Then we left. Then we were back again. You know, so it's quite cool that you're seeing from then to now.
Yes,
you know, even for us to see where you guys have come as a tutoring company. You know, and congratulations to you guys as well. I think one must take that into account, because you do know that businesses they collapse in the first year or two, and you guys have grown. You understand?
85%.
Yes, you understand. So you guys have not given up on it. You've grown, and it's I wish you all the best, and I hope more people sign up.
Thank you. We really appreciate that.
Yeah.
All right, guys, we're going to be going to our next segment, which will be current affairs. Please follow the Ledwaba story on social media platforms. You will leave links in the description for all their social medias so that you can check out the work he's done. You'll see a short video also within the video of him winning the African Championships, pictures as well. Very proud achievement. As a South African, I'm also very, very proud of this. And I will also never forget, actually, now that I think about it, the first day we had the video call when you signed up for tutoring, and he was already going to Austria.
Yes,
that time for another competition.
Yes.
And it was 2 years ago So this started a long time. You don't become a success story overnight, but we hope this will motivate and inspire you all.
Cool. Thank you so much.
That was so quiet. That was good. All right, guys, now we're moving into our current affair for the week. What are we discussing today?
We're discussing the hottest topic right now, which is the Matric pass mark. So currently standing at 30%, and it has been for the past decade or so under NG Mutseka. But as you know, GNU, new minister, the young man, not so young man anymore now, who's been championing this movement, Mr. Musi Maimane. He's now a member of parliament, so he's adamant. And he actually put in a proposal that, listen, to change this thing from 30% to 40%. And now that actually changes a lot with regards to what that means for your different levels. So F is a complete fail. And then you get your H, you get your diploma, and then you get your bachelor's pass. So the criteria for bachelor's pass currently, 40% for your home language, at least 50% for any other high credit subject, and then 30% for any other 2 subjects. And D, which is still a pass, is 40% for your home language, 40% for any other subject, and then at least 30% for 2 other subjects. And then your higher certificate, which is the lowest you can get before you consider to fail, is 40% home language, 40% 2 other subjects, and then 30% for 3 other subjects. Actually know what that would mean and how he would change that. From what I assume is that 40% minimum for home language would now be 50, and then everything else would just be increased by 10%.
So if anything that was 30 would now be 40, essentially.
Yeah. The reason why he wants this to be put in place is he always says, like, would you want your pilot to have gotten 30% for maths, whatever the case may be, as if you can get into university with those marks, is what we all say to him. But I mean, I hear him in the sense that, you know, if I took a tourism and maths lit and sort of like your quote unquote easier subjects, I can still come out with a bachelor's pass. Whereas if I took like a maths, another subject, and you know our parents are forcing us to do XYZ, I might come out with an H. But does that mean I am more capable than so with a bachelor's, but with lesser subjects? So I think what he's saying is, what is actually the midpoint? Maybe we should scrap the whole thing. Maybe there should just be 50% for everything as a pass, and then it's just it's a whole lot that comes into this conversation. The main reason why Angie, in my personal opinion, and especially the stuff she used to say early around 09, 2010, 2011 is, guys, if we hold the kids back, there'll just be too much of a backlog. There'll just be too many people with matrics trying to rewrite, and that will just put strain on the public education. So what she said is, okay, let's lower it. Make sure, you know, those who might not even need to go to school, you know, people maybe that want to go do practical work, they can just have a matric certificate, and then they go on with their lives. So yeah, we'll see. If it does ever happen, maybe they'll spread it out over a few years, because I mean, if I'm in grade 11 now, getting 30%, I've already planned my life around
around getting 30%.
Yeah, so it's just it's a mess, but yeah, let's see. I would prefer it though, if it's done right.
Moving into a 50%.
Yeah, but done right.
Properly.
Yes.
I think
I'd have to disagree, but you can go first.
Okay, I feel like I agree with you, but the thing is, it's going to have to start from the very, very bottom. We're going to have to increase our quality of education in order to make that happen. Because you can't just say, okay, guys, now 50%, but the teachers aren't getting more training to make sure that everyone is passing. There's overcrowding, so now the teacher doesn't give everyone enough attention. There's not enough funds for tutors. Some kids can't afford tutors. So how are we going to make sure that it's possible before we actually implement it?
And the reason I disagree with it being a good thing is just purely because 30%, yes, it might seem like a very low mark, but we've all been in school before. We know that there were kids who were getting that, and that was, I wouldn't say their best, but that's what they could. That's what they could. And some of them would study hard, as we said. Some of them would even go as far as to have a tutor. School isn't for everybody. Like we spoke, technical skills, people end up now having to move schools within about grade 10 and do N-levels. Instead of completely, entirely going to school, they say, no, we're going to do our N-levels. We're going to go study engineering already and get our technical skills, our trade skills. Or even if you don't get the results that you want at the end of your matric, there are so many after-school programs that you can go to increase those marks if need be. You know for a fact that you can go to university and bridge, if that's also something that you need to do if you want to get into a specific qualification. The whole schooling experience and getting more than 30% is what we want for our kids, but our education system is not up to par. We're very, very far behind. And also, I just don't see it being possible. I mean, looking at the track record of matrics, how many people have killed themselves
Yeah.
just because they didn't make this. Back when we used to release the results
On the newspapers.
On the newspapers.
Yeah.
Remember those days? It was kind of tough. So now, if people were already struggling with the 30 and it was so low, I think if it's not broken, don't fix it. Let's keep it.
I think it's broken though.
It is broken.
Like I think the notion here is they're trying to say like, okay, we need higher standards. Like comparatively to our fellow nations, even your Kenyas, like education-wise, we are so behind. We're falling behind, and something like this is a nice to have as a country to say that our pass mark is 50. Like you'll not have NSC, which is what you can't even get a job nowadays without a matric. If yours isn't 50 in our country. But to your point, you are right with, I guess, increased failure rates that presents and et cetera. I think what he's trying to say is, since that's going to be the new barometer, then everybody else will have to step up their game, educators, resource education, et cetera. But to Rebel's point, that's not always
it's not possible at the moment.
True. It's very tough. I see it as being a good thing because we do want the best matriculants. We want, like you said, I think that's a very valid point with what's happening in our neighboring countries. Zim is a very good one because we all know kids who come from Zim, we have all probably had at least one lecturer who was
from Zim,
Zimbabwean with their Cambridge curriculum, AS levels. It's a high quality of education. But that trickles down very, very down to like the bottom. Like from when you start in grade R already, you're already starting with that level. So I think, let our facilities and our educators, I mean, we're cutting teaching jobs. We're speaking about those kind of things, and then we want to expect more from the students. I do believe that I don't want to have students feeling like they are not part or they're too different because they can't meet the minimum pass mark. And it doesn't mean that if you cannot do math,
then
you're
not
doomed.
good enough.
You're doomed. You can get 30 and still be very successful. That's my only issue. But we don't want 30 to exist. That's not what we're saying.
I think maybe that's the problem again. It's once again the government coming in with litigation and legislation as opposed to actually putting in the work
to fix the problem.
Just saying, let's just move it to 50 and see. Whereas we could have the goal internally to be like, we still have it at 30%, like as law, but the goal should be, let's have like a 20% increase over the next however many years, and then we put our plans together, and then make sure that the teachers are on board, the students are on board, we're reporting back, et cetera. And then once that goal is achieved, then it's more realistic.
Let's bump it up a little bit. Yeah,
completely agree with you. If it's piloted like that, we make it standard, but it doesn't mean you fail. But like, hey, if you get 40, you're in the red zone. If you get less than that, you're in the red zone. And if we had said this thing is a goal, you would have failed. Make it very clear, give it a few years, and let the population adjust. And the students adjust. We'll see how. So that's it for current affairs. It's been an action-packed episode. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe. Leave us some questions. Send up some DMs. Rebel's DMs are open. My DMs are open. Phathu's DMs are open. Ask us some questions. We will answer them on the show. And stay tuned. Our TikTok topic, I think, we'll be discussing cryptocurrency. So we'll be talking about cryptocurrency, seeing what Bitcoin is. Some of us don't know. I also don't know. I'll have to go do my research, and then we'll talk to you about it. Current affairs?
Current affair, there is... Oh, the government is broke. There's a huge shortfall, hence the job cuts that are about to happen. That's quite interesting. We're going to unpack that.
Okay, and career guidance, we are going to be talking digital marketing, and that's something very exciting because I think a lot of parents aren't really up for it, so it will be a great discussion.
All right, stay tuned. I've been Bule.
Revo.
Phathu.
And we are Tudors.